here today with Mike Hilsabeck. Mike is a member of the Arizona Drag Racing Legends. Mike's got a long-time drag racing participant from Arizona. It's been in his blood. We're here today to talk to Mike and see what his memories are and how he got to where he's at today. He's got a lot of great stories to share with us. And Mike, how are you today?
Doing good. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome.
It's an honor.
How long have you lived in Arizona?
Since 1956.
56? When were you born here?
No, I was born in Whittier, California.
And they put you in a bassinet and brought you here? Or?
Yeah.
So
my dad had tuberculosis and spent 2 years in the hospital here. So that's why we ended up here.
That's how you ended up here? That's when everybody came to Arizona because of tuberculosis. And was he up in Sunny Slope or?
No, he was in up by Prescott, I think. It's called Fort Whipple.
Fort Whipple, yeah. So they were able to treat him, and because I know he lived a long, great life after that. So, what got you interested in drag racing? What are your cars? Think about when you first discovered I like cars.
Oh, it wasn't very old. It started off with motorcycle racing. My dad took me out to a motorcycle race when I was like 9 years old. And they had a doubles race. And he stuck me on the back and says, "Hang on, don't let loose for nothing."
Wow.
And so we raced at a place called the Waterhole. But he took me out on Litchfield Road to see Art Arfin's run back around 1963 or 4. And around the same time, he was taking me out to Beeline to watch the top Winter Nationals and stuff, the top fuel cars. And at that time, I wanted a dragster after I saw them.
So you're still a young guy, still in grade school, and you know what you wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Were you dreaming about cars when you were in the class instead of being?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So how did you start your drag racing career?
Well, I started off racing some flat track on motorcycles, and I'd take it out to Beeline and race it. And we went out there and mix a little nitro in it and some MEK cleaning solvent, a few other things, and had a lot of fun. And then as soon as I was still in high school, I got me a Ford Falcon. So I took it out there and I won the first race with it. And then I bought as soon as I graduated high school, I bought a 29 Model A. And I raced it a little bit at the drags and quite a bit on the street.
One of those guys.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Street outlaw.
Yeah.
Tell us about the car. What did you do to it?
Well, it was a 29 Model A pickup roadster. It had a 55 Ford T-Burger end. And I had a small block Chevy in it and a 4-speed. And it ran pretty good. Every time I went to the drag races, I blew it up, so I never got a good run.
You ran grip better on the street than at the track.
Yeah, the guys on Lopers used to laugh that instead of changing oil, I just changed engines. Because
there's an easier way to do it than just change the whole engine.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the, I first remember you with a Frontier dragster was an old, was it Jolly Green Giant car? Or?
Yeah, it was a Jolly Green Giant car. There was Tom Delaney, Jerry Hardy, and Charlie Brown. And I've been racing a Chevy too for a couple of years. And so I bought the dragster from somebody named Snidely. I'm sure somebody here knows his name, but anyway, so I went over and bought it, and then we took it home and took the engine out of my Chevy too, and I was all ready to go to the races and put the engine in it and set it on the ground, and the front wheels weren't touching. The oil pan was hitting the ground.
Oh.
So I learned that you gotta have a shallow oil pan in the dragsters. So I ran it with the carburetor for a little while, and it ran pretty good.
Where was your first track you took it out to?
Beeline.
You remember the day?
Yes. Yeah, it ran first pass, it ran a 10. And all I remember is it seemed like the car was 15 feet wide, the track was only 10 feet wide.
Moving side to side a little bit, or?
Yeah, it was fun. Back then they didn't make you go out there and just run it a few feet and shut it off like they do now. They was just have at it.
Iron Mike. That's what kind of got that nickname along the years. I know our friend Dean Bauer used to call you Iron Mike. That was his favorite moniker for you.
Yeah, he called me that because we tried racing top alcohol funny car for a little while, and we had an iron engine. Nobody else did.
So you had the Jolly Green Giant car you had a great body on it. That had all the classic sheet metal. What happened to that car?
I sold it to a gentleman named Jack Bennington.
Okay.
And then he left it in Mississippi. Or no, Indiana. It's in Indiana somewhere. Tried to find it, but it can't. But I never really looked at the car. I just raced it. And one day I pulled the upholstery out of the back, and the frame on the sides was completely flat. Somebody used a porta power in it to jack it wider. So if I would have crashed it, it would have just folded up.
The love of those cars, what you didn't know didn't hurt you until
it hurt you.
Until it hurt you. So you sold that car to get into the funny car?
Yeah, I sold that, and then I bought the funny car, and then
Who'd you buy that car from?
Jim Cowan and Dave Ball.
Okay.
And they bought it about 8 months earlier from Jim Dunn.
Jim Dunn.
Yeah.
The fireman.
Yeah, so I put little injected small blocks. I'm sure they laughed at me, but I went over to Orange County and raced it, and it still said Dunn and Reith on it. But it was fun. And I was going to say something about the dragster.
Sure.
Back in the old days, when I first started racing, they all ran classes. And all these other guys here kicked my rear end every race. Because, you had to enter it in a certain class. And I had to lie about the size of my engine because...
Oh, man, you're going to make a lot of people mad when they see this now.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Everybody else had 302s. I had a 350, but they still beat me with it. But then about 6 months later, they actually went to bracket racing instead. So I did better then, but I never won around against these other guys when we ran actual classes.
But that was your cutting your teeth still. You're learning about the car.
Yeah.
And a lot of great racers. Who do you remember racing against with the dragster? Who did you have somebody you just really wanted to beat? Anybody make you mad? I can't. I've known you for a long time. I can't see anybody really making you mad. But
just Snorkel and Rhodes.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But no. One day I was out there. I did a burnout. I was racing against Carter and them, and breather fell out of my engine. And I thought, oh man, they're not going to let me run. And 10-year-old Dean Carter ran over there and put the breather back in the engine for me on the starting line.
That's the camaraderie of drag racing.
That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That really was. That says a lot about sportsman racers. Somebody you're going to race against. They want to make the pass.
Yeah.
And would beat you on the track. That's an awesome story.
But I just want to say, these other guys, when they ran classes, they all ran hard. And I'd been a bracket racer with a door slammer, so my car wasn't set up to run as fast. Anyways.
But you got the bug to go quicker.
Yes. Yeah, so I ran the funny car for a little while, for about a year, with a little injected Chevy. And I bought an engine from Jerry Hardick. It was a 392 Hemi out of the Jolly Green Giant. And it was sitting in the corner with a rug over it in my garage. So one day I wanted to go to Winter Nationals, and I called my friend Brian, who was helping me, and I says, come on over here, we're going to throw another engine in the car. And he didn't even know I had that thing. So we went down there and ran it, the Pro Comp in Tucson, which I didn't qualify, but it was fun.
Was this Brian Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah. So you surprised him, even though you had it, you didn't know you had it.
Yeah, he didn't. He was just sitting over underneath the bench.
So you put the 392. What tranny did you run?
We ran a Turbo 400.
Okay.
But it kept breaking the ears off of the tranny. We found out you couldn't take off in low gear with a Turbo 400.
Too much torque.
Yeah. So then we went to a power glide, and then every other pass we had to pull it out and put a new input shaft in it. So
were you making the power glide you used? How did you build them yourself, or?
Yeah. Well, Dean Bauer helped.
Dean Bauer. Tell us about Dean Bauer.
He was a smart guy. I call him old man, you called him dad. But he loved racing. But he thought outside the box and he could make anything work right.
He's kind of like a Ray Carter.
Yes.
He could read stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? He's no longer with us, but you had great times racing with him, and
oh yeah.
And you had the funny car. How many? So you through your funny car progression, you started off with the, racing with the big boys, and then you ended up in, what was the path between? I know you did very well in Sifka.
Yes.
What cars did you have between that, or was it the same car, different bodies?
Same car, it's just a lot of different bodies. I raced Sifka for about 8 or 9 years and won 4 championships and came in second 3 times. But it was some good days, but
You were great days.
yeah, my dad would go with me to all the races, which was really nice.
Your dad, Bob?
Yes.
And he got a kick out of being there with you?
Oh yeah. And we go run the funny car, just him and me. He'd tow me up there, lift up the body, buckle me in. He'd start the car and go put the starter back in the truck, and then he'd just throw the stand on the ground, put the body down, and I'd do the burnout and back myself up. And there's a lot of work with 2 of us.
He was quite the guy, though. He's the guy that you sat on the back of a motorcycle with.
Yeah.
And now he's strapping in a race car, and you're there with your dad. That's got to be a great feeling, the family part of it.
I tried to get him to drive it, but he never wanted to. He could have.
He remembers what he did to you on the back of the motorcycle. He didn't want to feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you race funny car, race through the Sifka thing. And then you beyond Sifka. Well, let's put it. You did race a lot of different drag strips. Where have you raced that you're fine?
Oh man.
In Arizona to start with.
Well, in Arizona, back when I had the dragster, we'd run Beeline on Friday nights. We'd go race Tucson on Saturday nights and get out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then we'd drive out to Mel Larson's and get there at like 5 or 6 and go to sleep for a couple hours till they open the gates. So I raced 3 tracks every weekend.
You were bitten by the bug. You love racing.
Yep, that's all I wanted to do.
You've raced Orange County?
Yeah, I've raced Orange County. Let's see, here I raced Beeline, both Tucson tracks, Eloy, one weekend, raced, I didn't race in Winslow, but I've been to Grand Junction, Colorado, St. George, Utah, Pueblo, Colorado, Sacramento, Bakersfield. You guys running the fuel all at Bakersfield? I just made it past, and all these guys are sitting there motioning me to pull into this one little spot, stop and get out of the car. And I'm pretty large, it's a little bit harder to get out of a car. It hurts my knees, so I'll stick one arm out and somebody will jerk on my arm to get my shoulders out of the roll cage and I get out. Well, they're all motioning me to stop there. All of a sudden, they'll take off and they're running the other direction. And they're yelling, "Get out of the car, it's on fire."
Oh, nice.
But, I had a good fire suit on, so I was sitting there waiting for somebody to come over and help. They all had fire suits on. But, so then the old, one of the safety crew comes over like Barney Fife and he's going to save my life. And he jumps and lands across the altered body, which weighs about 10 pounds. I was like, "Get off of this thing, you're going to break it."
You're like the you save me, but don't hurt. Save the car, but don't hurt the car.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to go racing again. This was so you're running fuel altered, and you went on to I know that you went on. You did the IHRA circuit, the Night Fire or whatever it was.
I did that for 3 years in Nitro Jams.
Nitro Jam. There you go.
And I got to race with a lot of the true legends of the sport.
Well, some people think you're the true legend of the sport.
Yeah. I raced with Dave Huff, Mike Sullivan, Dave Benjamin. There's a few others I can't remember, but we talk about the summer of 2014. There was 4 of us had fuel altereds in Kathy Flock's garage. Her husband was Bullet Bob. We had 4 fuel altereds in their shop back there in Fowler, Ohio. And we all spent all summer there racing out of that shop.
That was your summer base.
That was the best summer racing ever.
What did you? Who all would go on the road with you?
It'd just be myself and Brian Kelly, and I'd pick somebody up from somewhere.
A local talent of some type.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a guy named Mike Zahar who lives in Ohio, and he'd help Ron Maroney, and then when Ron wasn't racing, he'd help me. But, I had a guy named, boy, my brain don't work no more. I had quite a few guys help me back there, though.
So you raced the archery circuit, and then that whole nitro part went away.
Yes.
Do you remember the crowds? What was it like? Were they?
Well, the first year the places were packed because Feld was running them. Feld Entertainment. They bring in monster trucks, and they'd bring in the kids, and they'd bring in their parents. And then the IGS or something Motorsports took over, and the crowds were about half. But they were still good, though. I mean, they were packed.
What do you remember the most from racing that circuit that you wish you could? You're sitting here in Arizona, and you go, boy, that was fun. I wish I could. Here's what I miss. What do you miss about racing that?
All my friends that we made. We had a good time at the races.
Would you say that in general about racing in general, the friendships along
Yes.
the way?
Mm-hmm.
Who mentored you besides your dad, obviously?
Well, I used to call Gene Rickard all the time, and I called him Dad.
Okay.
So he helped me a lot. And Mark Niver.
Great names.
Yeah, he was going to teach me about cooling nitro down to make them run better. And he says, I'll tell you about it when I get back. And that was the weekend he went to Seattle. So he never told me the story.
July 11th.
Yeah, that was a sad weekend.
Yep. There's a lot of Arizona. We've had a lot of great racers that aren't with us anymore, and he's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But you take his memories, and he was a good guy. I don't think there's anybody really had anything that he didn't get along with him. I think he's a person that definitely need two of them, so he could talk everybody want to talk about things, and he could get his work done. But he's definitely generous with his time and how he helped people. Who's racing today? Do you remember? Did anybody race with you that went off and started racing? Is racing now, or?
Well, Brian Kelly has a front engine dragster now.
Okay.
And it wasn't with me, but there was a guy named Glenn Miller who used to help Kurt Wheeler. And he bought a dragster and raced that for many years.
Does it make you feel good when you see these guys out there doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy helping other people now, just as much as I do racing.
So what do you got in plans for the future?
Yeah, I'm building me a new flat track bike. They got an over 60 class.
Is that what, the brittle bones class, or?
Yeah. Yeah, you race with the younger guys, they'll crash you because they don't care. So yeah, they got a class for 60 and over, so I'm gonna go try that, and I'm gonna put the fuel holder together again next year. Go run it.
Putting the band back together, you're gonna run the 6.0 class or this all unlimited?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just go back east and race.
Okay.
Because I got friends back, like Mike Zahar will help me back there, so I can leave it back there at his shop. Back in Ohio.
So I know that you lost your dad this year,
Yes.
and you're very close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make sure that that we give him kudos because
Yes.
he did good with you, and should be very proud of that. He was a good man.
That's why I decided to go race nitros, because he was getting in his 70s, and I thought, I need to do this before he can't go anymore. So when he was about 75, he quit going because my mom had had a stroke. So he stayed home and took care of my mom.
Took care of Mom. That's great. Well, Mike, you've got wonderful stories. Anything else you want to, that I know you've got way more stories than we've got, hours in the day, but because there are a lot of fantastic things you've done, and I know the things about sanding pistons down and pulling the opposite piston out just to make the passes. You're a diehard racer. To make a pass, so you're part of a show. You're going to make as many rounds as you can. And I think that's what people can depend on you for, is being there.
Dave Huff taught me one thing. When you burn a piston the first pass in your nitro car, You put like 110 thousandths jet in that cylinder, and you can run it again with a burn piston on fuel.
That's good.
It's just if the fire gets into the oil pan, then it's bad.
Oh.
So
You burn it, but not too burned.
So you want to make sure you flood them.
Flood it with nitro.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we truly appreciate having you here today.
Thank
You
you.
certainly are a deserving member to be an Arizona drag racing legend, and look forward to seeing you at the track sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.